Call the meeting to order. Play your video on.
Welcome to Nixa City Hall. This video is going to provide you with an overview of how the City of Nixa conducts City Council meetings. We encourage everyone to attend and participate in City Council meetings. This is part of how democracy works at the local level, listening to the perspectives of subject matter experts, city residents, and other community members helps our elected leaders make more informed decisions. Before we start the meeting, let's review some of Council's rules of order. These rules help us make sure our meetings are orderly and efficient while protecting the ability of everyone to have an opportunity to speak. Please be respectful of the person speaking and hold your own comments until it is your turn to speak. Presenters are invited by the Council to provide information during the meeting to the Council. These are informational presentations only, and nothing will be voted on at the time of the presentation. Presenters are not time limited. There are 2 times when all other visitors will be able to speak to Council. The first is during the visitors section of the agenda, and the second is during any public hearing regarding an agenda item. During the visitors section, anyone may speak to Council about any topic, whereas the public hearings regarding specific agenda items allow you to make comments for Council to consider before they make a decision on that topic. Whether you wish to speak during any public hearing or the visitors section, the following rules of order will apply. 1. Only one person should speak at a time. Be respectful of the person speaking and wait to speak until it is your turn. 2. Anyone speaking must do so from the podium and speak into the microphone. 3. You must first state your name and provide your address in writing to the city clerk before beginning your comments. 4. All speakers will be given 5 minutes to make their comments to the Council. The mayor or Council may have additional questions for speakers after this 5-minute period. 5. All comments should be addressed to the mayor and Council. 6. If you have questions about existing city processes, programs, or policies, or if you need assistance from staff on any issue, please contact City Hall during normal business hours and we'll be happy to assist you or answer any questions you may have at that time. The public hearing is designed to provide the public an opportunity to provide testimony and information to the mayor and council regarding the decisions they may be considering. Keep in mind this meeting will be recorded and live streamed with video and audio. Therefore, all comments relevant to this meeting must be spoken into a microphone, otherwise video viewers will not be able to hear you. In the case of a closed session or technical difficulties, some meetings or portions of meetings may not actually be recorded or streamed. The use of cell phones during council meetings is discouraged, so please silence all devices now. Thank you for watching, and thank you for engaging with the City of Nixa. The meeting will begin shortly.
Aaron Peterson.
Here.
Darlene Graham.
Here.
Matt Ogden.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Move on to the consent agenda. Would anyone like to remove any items from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to approve.
So made.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
Aaron Peterson.
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
Yes.
Seth Baylog.
Yes.
We'll move on to the visitor section. Do we have any visitors?
No visitors.
We have no visitors signed up this evening. We will move on to our first reading of ordinances.
First reading Council Bill number 2023-11, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending the 2023 annual budget to appropriate funds for outdoor lighting improvements.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As Becca said, this is a ordinance to amend the budget for 2023. If you'll recall, back in July of 2022, we entered into a contract with Lens Electric to do some outdoor lighting improvements, which would include adding more lights outside to brighten the front for security issues, and to add LED color changing lights on the front. Due to supply chain delays, the project was not started until December, and there have been some issues with the control panel and stuff like that. And so we were not able to make payment by the end of the year. Therefore, we need a budget amendment to transfer the funds over to 2023. And once the project is complete, make the final payment. Any questions about this ordinance?
Any questions? Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
And we will open up the public hearing. Close the public hearing. Any further questions or discussion? Move on to the next one.
First reading Council Bill number 2023-12, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending Chapter 4 of the Nixa City Code to update the city's liquor control codes.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I'm before you this evening to present Council Bill 2023-12, which, if approved, would modify provisions within the city's liquor control codes. Staff has been asked to review the city's current liquor control liquor control codes, which are located in Chapter 4. This is based on the fact that the city's current codes are a little outdated. There are quite a few old designations in the city's current code that are no longer, they don't have a state law analog. And we also don't have the same level of license categories that the state does, which causes some issues when staff is trying to interpret the code and figure out what license category new businesses that locate into the city should fall under. So these amendments that are presented are intended to ensure that the city's regulations are a little bit more useful and workable, that we have the license categories that we need to regulate the conduct that's going on, both from a staff perspective for enforcement and for the public, so they know what's to be expected of them and what category they more easily fit into. So just briefly, just a quick summary of the bill. So the bill is intended to update the code to bring it more in line with the state liquor control laws. And so what we've done is we've expanded the license categories and the definitions for those categories to reflect the definitions and categories in state law. We've modified the packaged liquor by the drink definitions and classes of license. We've also added a common eating and drinking area liquor license and a microbrewery license category. We also have authorization to allow for the issuance of temporary permits for the serving of liquor, temporary sale by the drink, tasting permits, and a liquor catering class. And we are going to have the fees expressly stated within the code in its own section, so it's easy for people to know what the fees are. And we didn't just invent this language out of nothing. While we were looking at how to best update the city's codes, we looked at our two closest peer communities, the city of Ozark and Republic, who have very similar liquor codes that have been updated in the recent past. So we've modeled the changes that are presented before you this evening off of those cities' codes so that people who are doing business in those cities will have an understanding of how our provisions would operate. With that, staff recommends approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the council may have on this item.
Any questions? Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
We'll open up the public hearing if anyone would like to speak on this item this evening. And we'll close the public hearing. Any further questions or discussion? All right, move on to the next one.
First reading Council Bill number 2023-13, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending the 2023 annual budget to appropriate funds for the city's portion of the Regional Broadband Initiative feasibility study.
All right. Mayor, Council, in April of 2022, we entered into what's called the Regional Broadband Initiative. And we took part in that board upon council's approval. And in September, council approved a cost share agreement to complete a feasibility study that would take a look at how feasible it would be to get high-speed internet to all residents, both in Greene County and Christian County. As part of that, we agreed to a cost share agreement in September. The Nixa's portion of that was $31,000, which that budget was approved, or that budget amendment was approved last year. The actual agreement between all the jurisdictions that are involved in the RBI actually got signed early December. We fully anticipated making that payment by the end of December, but much like the last one, we were not able to make that payment by the end of the year. The invoices or the request for payment didn't come until after the first of the year. The agreement stipulates that Greene County will actually be the paying agency for all the people involved in the RBI group. So we will be actually making our payment to Greene County, and they will pay the company that's doing the feasibility study. That's called the Broadband Group. So just, you'll notice in the budget amendment request for today, it's actually $33,650.53. That additional amount of monies is, we did an amendment to that agreement that would pay for travel expenses for the broadband group to actually come here on site and do multiple things. One, they actually can travel here and visit with all of the organizations in person to give some updates, although some are given through teleconference as well, but it also allows them to travel here to actually get, eyes on our actual infrastructure to better understand what kind of build out it would take to get high-speed internet throughout our counties. So that is the difference, is we would like to pay our share of that travel expense as well. So today I'm asking for a budget amendment in the amount of $33,650.53 to pay for Nixa's portion of that cost share agreement. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Just to be clear, the travel expense portion of that would be $2,650.53, because originally we
Yes.
approved $31,000.
$31,000 originally.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. I think the total travel cost, I think we're estimated around $25,000, but again, that's split between all the organizations involved. Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you.
And we will open up the public hearing for discussion of this item. And we will close the public hearing. Any further questions or discussion? Okay.
It mentions specifically Super Bowl Sunday, but what about the World Series and all those other major things?
So that's language that is in state law currently. So
Okay.
if you have a state sale by the drink license, the way the statutory scheme is set up and the way that our the proposed code is set up, if you want to do Sunday sales, you have to get a separate license for that to authorize that. But the state has adopted a statute where for certain Sundays, you can sell under your general liquor license without the need for the Sunday sales license, and that's Super Bowl Sunday is one of those situations.
Okay, so we don't have to designate any other ones but that one then?
No, in that
Okay.
language that's there are other dates in that section of the code, and it's lifted right from
Okay.
the state statute.
How about the Oscars?
Pardon me?
How about the Oscars?
If you wanted to propose an amendment to add that in, we could
That's a big
entertain that.
holiday for a lot of people, you know?
Well, it's like, so Dollar General doesn't sell liquor on Sunday because they don't want to pay the extra, but they can sell it on Super Bowl Sunday because that's laid out specifically in the
Okay.
ordinance. So.
That clears it up. I was just looking through there and went, okay, thank you, Nick.
And then, Mayor and Council, just clarification, to switch gears again back to the RBI group. I think I neglected to mention that budget amendment, I'm requesting that come from ARPA funds, as I requested last year. So I'm requesting that become out of the ARPA funds that we have set back, just for clarification.
Any other questions? Anything else? No? Okay. Move on to second readings.
Second reading, Council Bill number 2023-01, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending Chapter 12, Article 5 of the Nixa City Code by amending Sections 12-103 and 12-104 to modify provisions related to mobile vending.
Mayor, Council, good evening. Staff is looking to amend our mobile vending ordinance to basically allow what we have in recent years approved by special use permit. We are since going back to the drawing board on this and respectfully request that you deny this ordinance.
Can you repeat that?
So Jared and I spoke with Scott and Jimmy about this, and we had some additional questions, so we're just gonna let this version of it die, but we had already had on the agenda, so we have to do something.
Oh,
So what we're gonna do is, I'll call for motion, nobody gives a motion, then it's done, it goes away, we never see it again. He'll bring back something else that has the more specific changes that we had discussed.
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
And we'll open a public hearing. And we will close the public hearing. So what we're trying to do is get rid of this, so I'll ask for a motion. Nobody says anything, we move on a second. Motion to approve. No motion given, we'll move on to the next item.
Second reading Council Bill number 2023-06, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa, amending Chapter 22, Article 4, Division 1, Section 22-284 to modify provisions related to vegetation management of the city's electrical distribution system.
Mayor, Council, good evening. I'm back, just hopefully for you guys to approve our ordinance that we brought towards you last meeting. Basically, it's just updating our tree policy. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Any questions? Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
And we'll open up the public hearing. Close the public hearing. Any other questions or discussion on this item? I'll accept a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
Yes.
Seth Baylog,
Yes.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
Second reading Council Bill number 2023-07, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa, amending sections 101-2, 101-101, I'm gonna start over. Sections 101-102, 117-101, and 117-99 of the Nixa City Code to accommodate the state's approval of adult use marijuana.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. City Council conducted first reading on this matter at the February 13th, 2023 meeting. Staff provided a presentation at that time regarding the changes that are made in this bill. I'm available this evening if you have any questions about the bill. And with that, staff would recommend approval.
Can you go over it basically again?
Yes. So what we're doing, the bill is making three types of changes to the city code. First, and this is in relation to the state's adoption of Constitutional Amendment 3, which legalized recreational marijuana use in the state of Missouri. So because of that, there will now be land uses that can occur in the state that our zoning ordinance does not have language to address. So the bumper sticker of what this bill is doing is taking these land uses authorized in the state constitution and placing them in our code so we have language to address them locally. And so it does that in three ways. First, we're adding definitions that are contained in the constitutional provision into the city's zoning ordinance. Then we are amending section 117-101, which is the city's current medical marijuana use regulation. When medical marijuana was authorized by constitutional amendment, the city adopted an ordinance to provide use regulations on how that use would occur within the city of Nixa. We're updating that section to accommodate this recreational or what's called comprehensive marijuana uses. And then third, we're modifying section 117-99, which is the city's table of approved uses. That's the section of the city code that tells you what land uses are authorized within what zoning districts. And so there we are taking these new uses that we're defining and placing them in zoning districts that are equivalent to the medical marijuana uses that can already occur there. That's the gist of the changes in the bill.
And then in 117-101, it also states the distance of separation.
Yes. Yes, so the constitutional provision allows for a 1,000 feet separation between uses and churches, daycares, and schools. And so that section is being modified to take the maximum separation that we're allowed under the constitutional provision.
And not passing this wouldn't ban recreational marijuana. What's the process for doing that if that is something the council wanted to do?
That's sort of a tricky question. So not adopting this would have the effect of a ban because the zoning ordinance just would not have, they would not be permitted uses under the zoning ordinance. However, the language approved by the voters, and is now in the state's constitution, has a provision in which cities can elect to prohibit these uses from occurring, and it requires a vote of the people and a supermajority requirement. So I have some concerns with an argument that we can accomplish a ban through a means that the Constitution lays out a different way of conducting that, and us imposing a de facto ban when there's a way to ban could subject us to some questions. So I can't really answer that question because I don't think it's supported in the language, but we would take the position as staff that we cannot allow these land uses in the city because it does not comply with the zoning ordinance. But there is some tension there on what our liability would be if we were to do such a thing.
So what you're saying is if council approves this, there is language that if the citizens don't want it, that they could have brought to, that we could have it banned within the city limits.
Yes, there's a method for the council to make that election and submit it to the ballot, or registered voters within the corporate limits of the city can propose a petition to do so.
Does it have to be after? Or can it be before to make the decision?
Well, it could be before, but the amendment is effective as of today. So right now, these land uses are allowed to legally operate in the state, and we would be prohibiting them without utilizing the constitutional means to do so. So there's a legal question there that could be the subject of litigation. So,
But if the intent is to put it on the ballot, for the citizens of Nixa to vote, when would that occur?
it would probably be, I don't know that we would be able to get it on the ballot for the April election at this point. I'd defer to the city clerk on that.
It would not go on April, it's way too
That'd be in
late. It would
August.
probably, it would be August if you did the special ballot in August or November.
If that's the direction from council, we can study that, but the intent here was to place the language in the code so we could deal with it today, because right now we don't have a way to deal with it. It doesn't prejudice council's decision to, at a later time, implement a ban on them.
Any other questions? Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
And then, real quick, Nick, just for clarification, that would, if it were to not pass, that would ban, it would take care of the zoning, but it would still be allowed, usage of marijuana would still be allowed within the city limits, correct?
Yeah, I guess that's an important clarification, so,
Because they are combined all in one big thing here.
right, I
Maybe
don't
in
know
the
that,
future, we need to separate these things out a little more, because we have a couple of those things where we're like, we'd like to pass this part, but not pass this part.
Yeah.
yeah, you mean with the constitutional
Yeah.
provision?
Yeah.
Or the bill itself?
Well, and here, we could have did two separate ordinances, one changing making it legal to just changing the policing ordinance, making it legal, and then the other changing the zoning, and then we could have passed one and not the other.
Well, so that wouldn't really be applicable here, because we're preempted under the Constitution on passing a police ordinance to make it illegal again. That's
Right.
going to preempt us on that. So it will be legal to consume in the state regardless of what the council decides to do here. What this is trying to do is add language to the zoning ordinance so that we can regulate these to the extent that we can under the constitutional provision. My concern with the discussion about the ban is there's a specific constitutional vehicle to do that, which is not just not writing it into your zoning ordinance. But if we did the ban approach that we're discussing, it wouldn't prohibit the consumption of it within the city limits. They could go to some other city and purchase it and then be able to legally consume it under the constitutional provision. Does that make sense?
Right. Any other questions? Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
And we will open up the public hearing. And close the public hearing.
I think we need to postpone this amendment to the next meeting.
Okay. We are harming an existing Nixa business that is waiting for this. I mean, very
I
nicely.
understand, but I feel like if it went to a vote tonight, that it wouldn't pass.
I'd almost like to get some input from the community.
I agree. That's my point
To see
behind
what they would want to
investigating
do.
the ballot initiative.
Well, that would fall under what Nick explained with
I mean, there's a constitutionally
Avenue
designed
for them
method for
to-
doing that.
Yeah.
We're doing a taking from that business. We are, in my mind, as Nick said, we are directly harming that business by not
Absolutely.
allowing them
I agree
to do
with that.
something that they are legally allowed by the Constitution of the state to do. And they could and should sue us, and they would get a very large judgment because we're talking a lot of money that they would be out over that
So
period
we
of
would be
time.
harming the medical marijuana businesses?
No, you'd be harming yes, because they have a license to sell recreational marijuana as well, under the state constitution.
Okay, I understand
And
that.
we're circumventing the Constitution by not having it on the ballot and just telling them that they can't have it because of the zoning.
But my suggestion is that we obviously can't get it on the ballot for April.
No.
Correct.
But my intent would be to put it on the ballot. That's what I'm saying.
Yes,
we can do
I agree with
that, yeah, later.
So
And we could
pass
separate
it,
this
we
out.
could pass it, and then later on, put a ban against
Correct.
whatever.
And
is
then a
in it.
ban against the whole thing, and then, again, I guess since it's in the Constitution, we can't be sued for that, because it's the constitutional method of getting rid of it, even though that business
Yeah, that would be fine.
would be a loss to that business, but it's a loss
Yeah.
that's designed into the Constitution. It's not
At
on
least
us. It's
Revenue
on-
dollars that we would lose too. as a
Yes,
city.
we would lose a large amount of revenue as well.
My concern would be, though, from the time period between now and that election.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
potential loss of revenues would be a
Well,
concern.
there's
They'd be
costs
losing hundreds of
involved.
thousands of
If we
dollars
don't
in
have anything on the
revenue that
ballot
they
for
would-
August, then we'd have cost for August, additional costs that would be frivolous. And then if November rolls around and we don't have anything on the ballot there, again, that's additional cost.
So August, yes, August would be a small ballot, so the odds of another community having something on the ballot, you're looking at probably significant cost for August. November would be your best bet. There's more likely to be things on the November ballot if you were wanting to put it on the ballot. So it would be best to wait till November.
So
Is there any way that it could be separated out?
That's what Nick was just saying, that we couldn't do that because of the
I'm
Constitution.
sorry, Nick, I didn't catch it.
So I'll need to study, if we decide to go the ban route under the constitutional provision with the ballot initiative, we'll need to study that and come back to council with a proposal on that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think you have to do it at the November election. I don't think we get to pick what election that it occurs on. And then it has to be approved by a supermajority of those voting. So just some things to keep in mind. If that's a route we decide to go under, we can review that and come up with an ordinance to submit that at the next available ballot that we can get it on. My concern is that we have time to study this. So like, don't think that we're on a clock that we have to do this particular thing this evening, but I don't think we can wait and just ban it by not authorizing it within the zoning ordinance. I think that would be circumventing the intent of the constitutional amendment, and we could be subject to liability for that.
So
But, if you're adamant for it, we can postpone it to the next meeting and just discuss it again.
I guess my
when
question is on the
everybody's here.
timing of this. So this is in effect as of, you said yesterday or today?
No, I believe so in
February
the
6th.
memo, I think I referenced that the
Right
licenses could have been issued like at the beginning of February.
Okay.
So the way it worked, the provisions were effective in December. after it was voted in by the people in November. So December it was effective, and then the Department of Health and Senior Services, which is the state agency that has authority to license these uses, they had some lead time to issue licenses, and that lead time, we're beyond that now. So in theory, there could be dispensaries within the city of Nixa that have the authorization from the state to sell.
Our dispensaries already received their license. They've actually already done remodeling to enable them to do it within the same building that they were in before. So they've already invested money as well, which is a liability we would have.
Are we in this, this is a presumed time crunch, right? Or am I not just, should we have gotten ahead of this potentially?
The longer we wait, the more our liability would be.
And is there an expectation of timing around when cities are ready to accommodate this?
I believe most of our neighboring communities have adopted zoning ordinance amendments to allow these uses. I'm aware that Springfield has, and I'm aware that Ozark has. I'm not sure. I think I remember reading that Republic had, but I couldn't swear to that.
I would still like to try to get some community input on this and see what they say about it.
That's not going to change the lawsuit and our liability.
Well, I think the community input was when it
Maybe
got
I'm being
passed
selfish in that I
through the
want the whole
state.
community to be involved.
Darlene?
Well, they'll have the opportunity if we put it on the
On the
ballot.
ballot. They
Yeah.
can do
Darlene,
it
I think the
when they
community input happened when it got approved, got passed at the state level. I mean, the community voted for it.
I don't know how many of our community voted for it, though.
Well, Mayor was just saying
In the
that
state
there was a
constitution.
pretty
It was pretty
significant.
close, yeah.
Okay.
But yes, but we can, yeah, I'm all for if you guys want to put it on the ballot for a future thing. I just think it's bad to, because we're hurting an existing Nixa business.
For every day that we don't pass this now, it is costing that business revenue, and it's costing the city revenue, really,
Sure,
in tax dollars.
that is true. But if Seth and Darlene want to think about it more or are adamant against it, I think we should postpone it until
That's my
Jared.
recommendation, if that's the case. So we get a few more members to discuss it.
Okay,
Okay.
so make a motion to postpone to the next meeting.
I'll make a motion to postpone this ordinance, 2023, what is it?
07.
07 to the March 13th meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Second reading Council Bill number 2023-08, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending the 2023 annual budget to appropriate funds for an inclusive playground at Macaulay Park.
Good evening. As discussed at our previous council meeting, the funds to complete the Macaulay Playground needed to be moved into our 2023 operating budget. And so this ordinance would, resolution would, ordinance is correct, would move the $530,189 remaining for that project into our 2023 budget. It's almost done. They're getting there.
I'm so excited about this. I drive by there and it looks so fantastic.
It's looking awesome. They've got a little bit, I've been told that the hard stuff to put together is done. And so now all the easy stuff remains, and so they're moving right along. As soon as the temperatures warm up, they're getting ready for the pour in place that'll come.
This community's going to love it. It's so good.
It's going to be great. It's going to be amazing.
Bright.
It's bright, isn't it?
Yeah, it's bright.
It is very bright.
Bless you.
If you'll recall, we use savings funds that the parks have been using, saving over the last several years to pay for this project as well.
Any other questions? Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Actually, I do have one other question.
sorry.
In
Yes, sir.
regards to that, we did talk about the money that we saved and then the matching grant. When's the expectation for the other playground to be done?
It's scheduled to ship in the next couple or 3 weeks. And so once we receive that, we'll be able to schedule with the installer. Those installers do not like to schedule until we have it.
Sure.
And so I'm being told that the crew that is working on our current one will also install that one. And so I don't know if they have a project in between or not, but hopefully in the next few months, see that going. I'd really like to get it done before the kick of the summer kicks in, but we'll see. Thank you.
All right. Any questions? Any other questions? We'll open up the public hearing if you would like to speak on this item. And we'll close the public hearing. Any further questions or discussion? Motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Seth Baylog,
Yes.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
Yes.
Second reading Council Bill number 2023-09, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Hall Ansley PC for professional legal services and amending the 2023 annual budget to appropriate funds for said contract.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Thankfully, this one's not about marijuana. That'll be later. But this is an ordinance which, if approved, would authorize the city administrator to execute a contract with Hall Ansley PC for professional legal services. If approved, it would also amend the city's budget to appropriate funds for said contract. This was first read at the February 13th, 2023 meeting, and I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have about this item.
Any questions? Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, sir.
All right, and we will open up the public hearing on this item. And we will close the public hearing. Any further questions and/or discussions? All right, I accept a motion to approve.
So made.
Second. Oop.
Roll call, please.
Seth Baylog,
Yes.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
Yes.
Second reading Council Bill number 2023-10, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa rezoning the real property generally located at the 400 block of West Mount Vernon Street from a general commercial GC district to a high-density multifamily residential R3 district.
Mayor, Council, good evening. This is for the rezoning of 1.87 acres in the 1400 block of West Mount Vernon. The property was originally annexed in 2018 as part of a larger 21-acre parcel annexation. It was given general commercial zoning at that time. In 2020, it was split into 14 lots. This lot is Lot 12 of the Auburn Heights subdivision. To the south is 11 lots of single-family zoning property with single-family structures on it. To the west is general commercial zone property with a legal non-conforming single-family home on it. To the east is the Nixa Public Schools score building on general commercial zone property. To the north is Highway 14. The subject property access will come off of Highway 14. It has a 40-foot access easement that is 20 feet on the west side of this property and then 20 feet on the neighboring property. That is where MoDOT has approved access for this property. It has access to all of our municipal utilities at this time. This property is part of the Oakmont Lift Station Drainage Basin, which is currently in the planning phases of being relocated and expanded so it could properly serve more of this corridor of Nixa. There is also a delay for transformers at this time. We are still receiving 18 to 24 month lead time. This property is shown on the future land use map as being zoned high density multifamily, which is R3 zoning. At the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 4-1 to recommend approval to the City Council. Staff is recommending approval for this rezone based off of the future land use map showing that this property should be zoned R3. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Any questions? Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
And we will open up the public hearing if you would like to speak to this item.
That's kind of why we're here. My father here, Bob Barber, owns land across Wolfstein.
Come on up to the mic there, yeah. And state your name and
I'm Terry Barber. I live on Cherry Street. My dad there lives around the corner, but he's got some land out here west of Nixa across 14 from this rezoning piece of property. We're just concerned about stormwater runoff. There's a place down through there that the water runs north under Highway 14. It goes down through my father's farm down near Highway 14, but then it runs back south under 14. And we're just concerned about the stormwater drainage, if it's going to run under 14 and back on my father's land, or if it's going to stay on the south side of 14.
You can go ahead and answer that, Scott.
This is Lot 12 of Auburn Heights. It does feature a large detention basin that services Lot 12 and the 11 single-family lots to the south of it. It does drain into the MoDOT right-of-way, which then goes under 14 onto your father's property. It is contained in that drainage basin and then released at the same historical flow rates that it's always been released, so there shouldn't be any change in the amount of stormwater on your father's property.
Had you seen the change since the houses were built?
Oh, yeah.
You've seen more since the houses were built there?
Yeah, big hard rain comes and it runs under 14, it goes over on his farm. And of course, with the trash and the litter and rocks and is it cutting through some of the ground places, the water?
Well, 100 years ago, they dammed that ditch up there to put that water over on the north side, and that's where the water comes out on the north side. I had all kinds of trouble with back. We had a mayor here. We had a mayor here that could get by with anything. I have all kinds of problems with the back of this, the back of the farm. It runs north on the north side of Mount Vernon. And anyway, he built a dam back there and then drilled a hole in it about 18 inches in diameter that drains about 15 acres of water. And whenever it comes a big rain, it washes the fence out, everything goes. And this dam that he built there, it don't hold water. It goes through this 18 more or less inches of hole it has through that. And I can't tell you the name of that street, but it's straight north of where we're talking about.
You don't have like a detailed map of where the retaining basin would be on this piece of property?
Yeah, it's already in place. It's in the northwest corner of Lot 12.
So it's already up here?
Yeah, it's already constructed and in place.
And then once it goes through that basin, it's going to run
Into the MoDOT right-of-way on the south side, and then it flows to that, the culvert underneath 14.
Okay. Well, thank you for your explanation there. I'm not sure exactly if that's what I want to hear or not.
Well, thank you for listening.
Thank you. He's actually talking about up here.
Yeah, over on the other side.
Right here, I think, where they put the.
He says it's going over on you. It's going back over on you again, then coming back through here and going back across.
We'll keep open the public hearing. Anyone else would like to speak on this item? And we will close the public hearing. Any further questions or comments from council? Well,
And just to clarify, which side of Mount Vernon is this property located, the north or the south?
The south side.
It's that big, it's the brown part, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything further from staff? Okay. We'll accept a motion to approve this ordinance.
So made?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham,
Yes.
Seth Baylock.
No.
All right, we'll move on to the resolution section.
Resolution number 2023-09, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa amending the city's personnel code by modifying certain policies to accommodate recent amendments to the Missouri Constitution related to marijuana and updating the city's smoking policy.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I actually have a PowerPoint on this run through. Okay, so another Amendment 3 related item. So we're discussing Resolution 2023-09, which, as a reminder, on November 8th, the voters of the state of Missouri approved Constitutional Amendment 3. This modified the state's constitution to allow for the use of marijuana by those 21 years of age or older. The amendment also modified some language regarding employment protections for the use of medical marijuana. And so Resolution 2023-9, as it was presented, would modify the city's personnel code to try to accommodate these changes made by Amendment 3. This item was originally considered at the February 13th, 2023 meeting, and it was postponed to allow staff some additional time to study some matters that the city administrator is going to speak on, and also for staff to prepare some proposed amendments. So I'm going to go over the amendments that are proposed, and they were included in your council packet for this evening. And so I've drafted 2 amendments based off of some of the discussion that council had at the last meeting. And so we have Amendment 1 and we have Amendment 2. Amendment 1 merely just adds the definition for safety sensitive. We had quite a lot of comments on what that meant and how we were going to implement that. And so we checked state law and borrowed a definition that we've slightly modified from section 105.116, which defines safety sensitive as employment with the city, which involves the performance of duties which have a direct and immediate impact on the safety of employees, the employee, the public, or other city employees. And so what we've modified from the state definition is including impact on the employee themselves, and that was based on some additional research conducted. So Amendment 1 would just add that. Amendment 2 would add the definition for safety sensitive, but also clarify that the city's position is that off-duty consumption of marijuana could be grounds for disciplinary action if it were to appear in a random drug test, unless the employee had a valid medical card, which is one of the protections that is in the state constitutional provision, that if you have a medical card, you can't just take adverse employment action against an employee with just a positive test. There has to be some kind of evidence of impairment while on duty. And so both amendments add the safety sensitive definition, so staff would recommend that that be added into the resolution based off of the comments that were made by the council of last meeting. They would both do that. Amendment 1 maintains the original draft, which didn't regulate off-duty conduct. Amendment 2 would add provisions into the city's employment policies that would regulate that off-duty conduct. I'm going to turn it over to the city administrator to provide some information on the amount of employees and the safety-sensitive position question.
I looked at 2 factors, 2 things that I was asked to look at over the last couple of weeks. One of those being the number of employees that would be affected that was either considered safety sensitive and or had a CDL.
Excuse me a minute. That's really loud out there. It's hard to hear you. Okay.
Till Scott come go outside.
Sorry, Jimmy.
That's all right. No, you're good. I looked at two things. One, how many employees considered safety sensitive and/or had a CDL that would fall under that provision, versus how many employees would not be safety sensitive and does not have a CDL. So we went through every one of those job descriptions for all the full-time employees and read through those and evaluated those. And I spoke with the department heads to help determine their exact duties that they must perform. In the end, I came up with 82 employees that are considered either safety sensitive or have a CDL, and then there's 58 full-time employees that do not fall under either category. So those are those numbers. And then the other thing that I was asked to look at was if I could get a better understanding or an idea of at what level or how quickly intoxication dissipates from marijuana usage. And as I mentioned last meeting, it depends, and that is still my answer today. I looked at 8 or 9 different very reputable websites, looked at multiple different studies, one from Sydney, one from University of Alberta, one from British Columbia. I looked at multiple studies, and I can tell you every study had different numbers. Again, it's just, they all said the same thing. It really depends on the amount that was consumed, how it was consumed, whether it was eaten or inhaled. Also looked at things like body weight can make a difference. The person's metabolism, I can't say that word, metabolism, there we go. Also, if the person had eaten or not and what their tolerance level is. So all those things can affect the amount of time that intoxication lasts within or on a person. Several of the different sites ranged from anywhere from one was if it was inhaled up to 7 to 8 hours of intoxication. If it was orally, one study said 10 hours, another said 12, another said 6. So again, the numbers were all over, but if you're looking for like maybe a consistent number, I would say the majority of the studies probably landed somewhere around 10 to 12 hours. And that is if it was eaten or ingested orally. And then at the end of that, I'll just say this, that even the CDC said that in the end that it can last longer than any of these depending on the amount ingested. So just keep that in mind, but those were the two things I was asked to look at, so I wanted to bring that information back to council.
Thank you.
And so I think from staff's perspective, we would be looking for a motion to make one of the amendments that have been proposed, Amendment 1 or Amendment 2. And then once the resolution is amended, the council could proceed to consider the amended resolution. And with that, I'm available to answer any questions that the council may have on this item.
Is Amanda still here? Did she want?
She's on the hall.
Yeah. Clickety clickety. So we're discussing the marijuana changes for the handbook. I wanted your input on how you think one or either of these amendments or the whole thing would have on recruitment of employees.
Well, since we're already having a difficult time hiring people, honestly, I don't know. I really don't know how it would affect recruitment. But I do know we are already having a very hard time getting applicants to come in. If we took the marijuana off, the drug screening, the pre-employment drug screening, it might help. But honestly, I don't know, because we don't have a lot of medical cards, and I don't have a lot of people that Tomo doesn't call me and say, hey, you got a problem, you can't hire this person. That's been very rare. I think it's happened twice since I've been in this role as far as, marijuana has gone. So I'm not really sure how it would affect. I can see both sides. I'm really, either way you want to go is fine. I do think the longer we go as no tolerance, there could be an issue later on down the road. The more this is out there and the more people have access to it and things like that, I think it's going to be something that we will have to change no matter what we do. mean, that's just it's hard to say because it is so new and we don't really have anything to go on. I mean, other cities that I've talked to, they're either not making any changes or they're not letting their council know that they're making changes. Because they're not a charter city, so they're just doing it on the backside. So I'm not really sure. I don't really have a good answer for you. I'm sorry. I do think the longer it goes without doing something, we're going to have to change something, yes. I just don't know if now's the time to do it. I don't know.
All right.
Sorry, I don't know.
That's fine. Thank you very much. Any other questions? All right, we'll open up the public hearing. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Amanda. And we will close the public hearing. Any further questions or discussion?
Yeah, discussion, definitely. I think that with if we adopt Amendment 2, that makes it a zero tolerance. That doesn't say that we can't make amendments or changes down the road as we need to for recruitment purposes. I also feel that it's very, very new, and that I don't think we need to be the first ones to, or one of the first ones to say this, because I know a lot of large corporations still have zero tolerance policies, and I view government entities as larger corporations in a sense. And I think that's my opinion. I think that we can always loosen the knot, but we can't ever tighten it back up. We can't rein it back in if we need to.
Any other discussion?
I agree with Amendment 2, moving forward with that one.
Okay. Somebody make a motion to?
I'll make a motion to adopt this resolution with Amendment 2. Is that how I needed to say that, Nick?
Yeah, that would be a compound motion where a yes vote would approve Amendment 2 and approve the resolution. So we can do that if that's what council wants to do, or you
Or
could
should we
just
say
move
forward?
to adopt Amendment 2.
I would move to adopt Amendment 2.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Any other discussion on the resolution in general as amended?
Just wanted to thank Jimmy, city administrator, for all of the backgrounds.
You bet.
Extra work, appreciate it.
All right, so we'll accept a motion to approve the resolution as amended.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And we'll move on to the last one, whenever Rebecca's ready.
Resolution number 2023-10, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa accepting the bid of Mongan Painting Company Incorporated for a pool basin painting project and authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract for the same.
Good evening. So every 3 to 4 years, we need to repaint the pool basin to keep that concrete protected during the pool season. We have reached that point again, and so we threw out an RFP for proposals. We sent to 6 different companies, received 4 respondents, one of which was just late, and so was not accepted. And so you'll see that there are 4 respondents to that proposal here. Mongan was definitely the cheapest. At around $35,000, or right at $35,000, with the high bid being just over $115,000. And so Mongan is a company that we have not done work with before. However, the last pool painting that we did, the foreman of that job now works for Mongan. So he's very familiar with our pool. He's familiar with the setup, what it would take to paint. That company did a very good job, I'm sure, in part to his oversight and things on the project. And so in talking with him, he is very confident in his bid, and this resolution is to accept that bid and get that project going.
Do you know what it was the last time we had it painted?
It was, like 36 and change. And so we had budgeted 65, thinking, again, with all the projects and inflation and things that we've seen over the last couple of years, Talking to a couple of the pools in the north towards Kansas City area, they've been much, much higher. And so we went ahead and raised our bid threshold, the budgetary threshold to be able to accept that, and then came in right around where we normally are. And so we're really not that much different. The one year that we were different, we sandblasted completely back to concrete. And so that one had a whole nother perspective of the project. And so, yeah, no, we're definitely right in the idea that just didn't see much inflation. So I like that.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
And we will open up the public hearing. Close the public hearing. Any further questions or discussion?
How come Matt's not painting it?
He would.
kidding.
I mean, if
Just
we
kidding.
told him he had to, he'd be out there with a brush and a roller going to town on this thing. He probably has in the past, haven't you? You painted it by hand, haven't you?
We've touched up areas,
Yeah.
and so the lap lane
was
lines
only
and things, it would be a big project, but it is doable.
I don't think we want to go that way.
No. I hate painting.
We could have a council.
Council paint
Paint
retreat.
party.
I hate painting.
I
Use your
don't think you
rollers,
could beat
John.
this
Just-
price. I still think it would cost you this much money
And
to
just in,
do
just
it
in paint
anyways.
and brushes,
Yeah.
right, and equipment.
The paint is very expensive.
Yeah.
All right, no other questions. I'll accept a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's all I had. Anything else from staff?
Just a reminder for council to keep checking the calendar for speaking engagements. We're continually adding dates and times, so.
Anything else from council?
I've been to a few of the, what do you call them? When you go and talk about the ballot issues, the ballot initiatives.
The HOAs?
Yeah, I've been to some of the HOAs. I've been to the indoor garage sale. I think most of us have. I know I've seen Aaron and Darlene there. I think they're going very well. I think the community's engaging with them. They're asking questions. They want to know more. So I think it's a good thing that we're doing with that.
We even spent time talking to people that weren't in Nixa, just explaining to them what these ballot issues are, and it encouraged people they know that live in Nixa to expand on them and take a look at them and to vote for them.
And I know the downtown, just mention on that real quick, they're anxious to see what we get going with the master plan. So when we get that going, more insight on that would be helpful for sure.
And those banners they put up downtown, did you see those? They
Those
look
look
really
nice,
good.
They look nice.
I don't know if we did them or they didn't, but they look very nice.
Yeah, we did them, and Drew and his crew, his team helped out with that.
Good job.
Very nice.
Yep.
Anything else? All right, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There you go.